Have you noticed how every trip to the grocery store feels like your money's shrinking? What once filled your cart now barely covers the essentials. And it's not your imagination. Prices are climbing fast, and some of the most common foods are getting hit the hardest. In this video, we're uncovering 15 groceries you need to stock up on before October ends. Because these items are becoming more expensive and in some cases harder to find. Most people don't even realize how quickly these everyday staples are disappearing from shelves. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which foods are at risk, why prices are skyrocketing, and how to prepare before it's too late. Some of the items on this list might already be sitting in your kitchen, but not for long. 1. Liquid gold. The enduring value of pure honey. Honey has been a cherished commodity for millennia, valued not just for its sweet, complex flavor, but also for its remarkable natural properties. It's a versatile ingredient that can elevate anything from a simple cup of tea to a sophisticated marinade. However, this ancient pantry staple is facing a modern crisis, making it a prime candidate for stocking up. The global honey supply is under significant pressure, largely due to the alarming decline in bee populations. These essential pollinators are struggling against a combination of habitat loss, widespread pesticide use, and the unpredictable effects of a changing climate. Fewer bees mean less pollination, which directly translates to a smaller honey harvest year after year. As the supply dwindles, the natural laws of economics dictate that prices will continue to climb, turning this once common sweetener into a luxury item. The challenges don't stop in the fields. Beekeepers are facing their own economic battles. The cost of maintaining healthy hives has skyrocketed. They must now invest more heavily in disease prevention, parasite control, and supplemental feeding to keep their colonies alive and productive. These increased operational costs are inevitably passed down the supply chain, from the producer to the wholesaler, and finally to the consumer at the grocery store. What you see as a higher price on the shelf is a direct reflection of the immense effort and expense required to bring pure, unadulterated honey to market. This financial strain is pushing some small-scale beekeepers out of the business entirely, further constricting supply. Furthermore, the scarcity of pure honey has given rise to a deceptive market for adulterated products. In many places, shelves are filled with products labeled as honey, but are actually blends mixed with cheaper sweeteners like corn syrup, rice syrup, or cane sugar. This makes finding authentic, pure honey a more difficult and expensive endeavor. Stocking up on pure raw honey from a trusted source now is not just a smart financial move, it's an investment in quality. Securing a few extra jars ensures you have the real deal on hand for its health benefits and culinary uses, safeguarding your pantry against both rising prices and the prevalence of inferior, fraudulent products. The value of honey extends far beyond its taste. It's a cornerstone of natural food systems, and its growing scarcity is a signal of broader agricultural challenges. 2. The humble oat, a foundation under pressure. Oats have long been celebrated as a cornerstone of a healthy and affordable diet. This humble grain is a powerhouse of nutrition, packed with fiber, protein, and essential nutrients. It's the foundation of countless breakfasts, from comforting bowls of oatmeal to crunchy granola, and a key ingredient in baking and even savory dishes. Its reputation as a budget-friendly staple has made it a go-to for families, students, and anyone looking to eat well without breaking the bank. Recently, however, the affordability of this fundamental grain has started to erode under the weight of global economic and environmental pressures. The once reliable oat is becoming noticeably more expensive, signaling a shift that could impact household grocery budgets everywhere. A primary driver of this price increase is the volatile climate. Major oat-producing regions around the world have been hit with extreme and unpredictable weather. Severe droughts have stunted crop growth and reduced yields, while in other areas, excessive rainfall and flooding have ruined harvests before they could even be gathered. This climatic instability makes oat farming a riskier and less predictable venture, leading to a tighter global supply. When the amount of available oats shrinks while consumer demand remains strong and even grows, particularly with the popularity of oat milk, a price hike is the inevitable result. Farmers are grappling with lower outputs, and that scarcity is directly reflected in the cost you pay at the checkout. Beyond the farm, the journey of oats to your kitchen has also become more expensive. Oats are often grown in a few key regions and shipped worldwide. The rising costs of fuel, transportation, and logistics add another layer to the final price. Every step, from the truck that takes the grain from the farm to the ship that carries it across the ocean, has become more costly. These expenses are absorbed along the supply chain and ultimately passed on to the consumer. This impact isn't limited to bags of rolled oats. It ripples across all oat-based products. The price of your favorite granola bars, breakfast cereals, and oat milk is directly tied to the raw grain's cost. Stocking up on oats now is a practical strategy to lock in a lower price on a nutritious and versatile food. By building a reserve, you can ensure your pantry remains stocked with a healthy staple, providing a buffer against the ongoing inflation affecting this once unshakable grocery item. 3 mints, canned goods, securing your pantry's foundation. Canned foods have always been the unsung heroes of the well-stocked pantry. Prized for their long shelf life, convenience, and affordability, they serve as a reliable foundation for quick meals and an essential component of any emergency preparedness kit. From vegetables and fruits to fish and soups, canned goods offer shelf-stable nutrition that can be counted on in any situation. Yet, this symbol of food security is facing significant inflationary pressures that are chipping away at its reputation for being a budget-friendly option. The price of filling your pantry with these essentials is on the rise, making it a wise decision to stock up before costs climb even higher. The issue begins not with the food, but with the can itself. The production of aluminum and steel, the two primary materials used for food cans, has become substantially more expensive. Global supply chain disruptions, increased energy costs for manufacturing, and high demand for these metals in other industries have all contributed to a spike in raw material prices. Can manufacturers are paying more to produce their products, and that cost is passed directly to food processors. Consequently, the packaging for your canned corn or tuna now represents a larger portion of the final price you see on the shelf. It's a hidden cost that adds up quickly, especially for households that rely on these goods for a significant portion of their meals. In addition to the packaging, the cost of the contents within the cans is also increasing. The raw ingredients, whether they be tomatoes, beans, peas, or fish, are subject to their own inflationary forces. Factors like poor harvests, rising labor costs, and increased transportation expenses mean that the food destined for canning is already more expensive before it even reaches the processing plant. When both the container and its contents become more costly to produce, the end product is hit with a double dose of inflation. This trend is particularly concerning because canned goods have traditionally been a safety net for families during lean times or emergencies. They provide a sense of security, ensuring that a meal is always available, regardless of external circumstances. As inflation erodes the affordability of this crucial food category, that safety net begins to fray. Stocking up on a variety of canned goods now is a proactive measure to protect your household budget and reinforce your food security for the months ahead. 4. Nutrient-dense nuts. A luxury in the making. Nuts, from almonds and walnuts to pistachios, have become a cornerstone of modern healthy eating. They are lauded as nutritional powerhouses, packed with plant-based protein, heart-healthy fats, fiber, and essential minerals. Their versatility makes them a perfect snack, a crunchy addition to salads, or a key ingredient in plant-based milks and butters. However, these once accessible snacks are rapidly becoming a premium item, with prices reflecting a complex web of environmental and economic pressures. Stocking up on your favorite nuts now is a prudent strategy to counter their steady climb into the luxury food category. A significant factor driving up the cost is the immense amount of resources required for their cultivation. Almonds, for instance, are notoriously thirsty crops, demanding vast quantities of water to thrive. In drought-stricken regions like California, where a large portion of the world's almonds are grown, water scarcity has become a critical issue. This directly translates into higher operational costs for farmers, who must invest in more expensive irrigation methods or compete for limited water resources. As climate change intensifies these weather patterns, the predictability and profitability of nut farming dwindle, making the entire industry more volatile and expensive. This environmental strain is compounded by surging global demand. As more consumers embrace health-conscious lifestyles and plant-based diets, the appetite for nuts and nut-based products has exploded. This creates a classic economic scenario where rising demand meets a constrained or shrinking supply, leading to an accelerated price increase. The cost pressures don't end at the farm gate. Nuts are often grown in specific climatic zones and then shipped across the globe. This intricate supply chain is vulnerable to a host of disruptions, including rising fuel costs for transportation, international tariffs, and logistical bottlenecks at ports. Each of these challenges adds another layer of expense, which is ultimately passed on to the consumer. What was once an affordable, healthy handful of energy is now a purchase that requires more careful budget consideration. Securing an extra bag or two of your preferred nuts can help you lock in current prices before they climb further, ensuring your pantry remains stocked with these vital, nutrient-rich foods. 5. The foundational flavors. Salt and sugar under pressure. Salt and sugar are perhaps the most fundamental ingredients in any kitchen. They are the building blocks of flavor, used in nearly every type of cuisine to preserve, season, and enhance our food. Because of their seeming abundance and low cost, they are often taken for granted. However, even these basic staples are not immune to the inflationary forces rippling through the global economy. The cost of producing these essentials is heavily dependent on energy. The processes of extracting salt from mines or the sea and refining sugar from cane or beets are incredibly energy-intensive. These operations require substantial amounts of electricity and fuel to power machinery, processing plants, and transportation fleets. With global energy prices experiencing significant volatility and generally trending upward, the cost to produce every bag of sugar and container of salt has risen in lockstep. This increase in production cost is a primary driver behind the higher prices you are now seeing on supermarket shelves. Furthermore, logistics play a critical, often overlooked role in the final price of these commodities. Salt and sugar are produced in massive quantities in specific geographical locations and then distributed worldwide. This global supply chain is susceptible to numerous disruptions. Increases in freight charges, fuel surcharges for shipping, and delays at international ports all contribute to a higher-end cost. Even a seemingly small percentage increase becomes significant when you consider the immense volume in which these products are traded and consumed. For households, the rising cost of these staples can have a subtle but pervasive psychological impact. Consumers are accustomed to salt and sugar being reliably cheap and plentiful. When the prices of even these most basic items begin to creep up, it can create a sense of unease and signal that no part of the grocery budget is safe from inflation. It highlights the interconnectedness of our global food system and its vulnerability to economic shocks. Stocking up on these non-perishable essentials is a simple and effective way to insulate your budget from future price hikes and ensure your pantry's foundation remains secure. 6. The versatile spud, a staple no longer guaranteed. The humble potato has long been a global symbol of affordable, reliable sustenance. This versatile tuber is a dietary cornerstone for billions, celebrated for its ability to be transformed into countless comforting dishes, from fluffy mashed potatoes and crispy fries to hearty stews and simple baked meals. For generations, potatoes have been a go-to for stretching food budgets, providing a filling and satisfying source of calories and nutrients. However, the dependability of this staple is being challenged by a combination of agricultural and economic pressures. The once unshakable affordability of the potato is showing cracks, making it another smart item to add to your pantry reserves before prices rise further. Potato farming is highly sensitive to environmental conditions. These crops require specific amounts of water and stable temperatures to produce a healthy yield. In recent years, unpredictable weather patterns, including prolonged droughts in some regions and excessive flooding in others, have devastated harvests. When the supply of a globally consumed crop like potatoes tightens, prices inevitably and quickly react, climbing to reflect the scarcity. Beyond weather-related challenges, farmers are also contending with soaring input costs. The price of fertilizer, which is essential for achieving good yields, has skyrocketed due to supply chain issues and increased natural gas prices. Similarly, the fuel needed to power tractors, irrigation pumps, and transportation vehicles has become significantly more expensive. Farmers are forced to absorb these higher operational costs, and to remain viable, they must pass them along the supply chain. This financial pressure is felt at every stage, from the farm to the processing plant and finally to the grocery aisle. The impact extends beyond just fresh potatoes. It also affects the price of processed products like frozen fries, potato chips, and dehydrated potato flakes. For many households, particularly those on tight budgets, potatoes have always been a safety net. The rising cost of this fundamental food item threatens that sense of security. Stocking up on potatoes, which can be stored for months in a cool, dark, and dry place, is a practical way to ensure you have this versatile staple on hand while hedging against future price volatility. 7. Fresh produce, the foundation of health under threat. Vegetables are the undisputed foundation of a healthy diet, providing the essential vitamins, minerals, and fiber our bodies need to thrive. They are the colorful, nutrient-dense components of our meals that experts universally recommend we eat more of. However, the very items that form the backbone of good health are becoming increasingly expensive, making it a challenge for many families to keep their plates full of fresh produce. The cost pressures begin right at the source, the farm. Growing vegetables is a resource-intensive process that has become significantly more expensive. Key inputs like fertilizer have seen dramatic price hikes due to global supply chain disruptions. Water, another critical resource, is becoming scarcer and more costly in many agricultural regions due to persistent droughts and changing climate patterns. Add to this the rising cost of labor, and farmers are facing a perfect storm of increased expenses just to get their crops in the ground and harvested. The journey from the farm to your local grocery store adds another layer of cost. Fresh vegetables are highly perishable, requiring careful handling and refrigerated transportation to maintain their quality. As fuel prices have risen, so has the cost of shipping everything from lettuce and tomatoes to broccoli and peppers. Any disruption in the supply chain, whether from logistical bottlenecks or labor shortages, can lead to delays and spoilage, further tightening supply and driving up prices. By the time produce reaches the supermarket shelf, these accumulated costs are reflected in a price tag that can cause sticker shock. What might seem like a small increase per item adds up substantially over a full shopping cart. This trend is deeply concerning because of its direct impact on public health. When fresh vegetables become a luxury rather than an accessible staple, households, especially those on tight budgets, are often forced to make difficult choices. They may reduce the amount of fresh produce they buy or substitute it with cheaper calorie-dense and nutrient-poor processed foods. This shift can have significant long-term health consequences, contributing to nutritional deficiencies and a higher risk of chronic diseases. While stocking up on fresh vegetables is not possible in the long term, being strategic by purchasing hardier, longer-lasting options like root vegetables, squash, and cabbage can help secure your access to vital nutrients as prices continue their upward trend. 8. The daily loaf, a symbol of sustenance on the rise. Bread is more than just a food, it is a cultural symbol of sustenance, a daily necessity that graces tables around the world. For millennia, it has been one of the most accessible and affordable sources of calories, forming the base of countless meals. However, the simple loaf of bread is becoming a more expensive purchase, a trend that directly impacts household budgets everywhere. The primary reason for this increase is its direct link to the price of wheat. Wheat is a global commodity, and its market price is susceptible to a wide range of factors. Poor harvests in major grain-producing nations caused by drought, floods, or other extreme weather events can immediately constrict global supply and send prices soaring. Geopolitical conflicts can disrupt planting seasons and block critical shipping routes, further straining the market. Beyond the cost of the raw grain, every step in the process of turning wheat into bread has become more expensive. Bakeries, whether large industrial operations or small local shops, are facing immense pressure from rising energy costs. The ovens used for baking, the mixers for kneading dough, and the electricity needed to run the entire facility all contribute to a higher operational budget. Packaging materials, from plastic bags to paper wrappers, have also increased in price. Finally, the cost of distributing the finished loaves to supermarkets and stores has climbed due to higher fuel prices and transportation expenses. These cumulative costs leave producers and retailers with little choice but to pass the increase on to the consumer. The widespread impact of rising bread prices is what makes this trend so alarming. Unlike specialty items, bread is a staple food consumed daily by billions of people. For families operating on a tight budget, a noticeable increase in the cost of a daily loaf can mean making difficult trade-offs. It might force them to cut back in other areas, or in more severe cases, reduce the amount of food they can purchase. This transforms an economic issue into a serious threat to food security. While bread itself is perishable, stocking up on the core ingredients like flour and yeast can be a smart move. This allows you to bake your own bread at a fraction of the cost of store-bought loaves, ensuring your family continues to have access to this fundamental food while protecting your budget from further inflation. 9. Dried legumes, the affordable protein pinch. Dried legumes, a category that includes beans, lentils, and chickpeas, have long been celebrated as the heroes of the frugal pantry. They are nutritional powerhouses, offering an excellent source of plant-based protein, dietary fiber, and essential micronutrients at an exceptionally low cost. For decades, they have been a go-to for health-conscious individuals, vegetarians, and families looking to stretch their food budget. However, even these humble and reliable staples are no longer shielded from the economic pressures that are driving up food prices globally. The affordability that made them so dependable is starting to erode, signaling a need to secure your supply now. A key factor is the increasing volatility in agricultural production. Legume crops are dependent on stable weather for successful growth and harvesting. In recent years, key growing regions across the world have been battered by unpredictable weather, from prolonged droughts that stunt plant growth to unseasonal floods that can wipe out an entire crop. This agricultural instability leads to smaller yields and a tighter global supply. Because legumes are traded internationally, with many countries relying on imports to satisfy domestic demand, these shortages have a ripple effect. Transportation costs are another significant contributor to the rising price. The expense of shipping containers of beans or lentils across oceans has increased due to higher fuel costs, port congestion, and other logistical hurdles. Tariffs and trade policies can also add another layer of expense, ultimately making the bag of lentils on your local supermarket shelf more expensive than it was just a year ago. For many consumers who have long relied on the predictable affordability of dried legumes, these price hikes come as an unwelcome surprise. The most concerning aspect of this trend is the vital role that legumes play in global nutrition. In many households, particularly those with lower incomes, beans and lentils serve as the primary source of protein, offering a healthy and affordable alternative to meat. As the price gap between legumes and meat begins to narrow, families may lose access to one of their last remaining low-cost, high-protein options. This has serious implications for food security and public health, potentially leading to nutritional deficiencies for the most vulnerable populations. Given their exceptionally long shelf life, stocking up on dried beans, lentils, and chickpeas is one of the smartest and most effective ways to prepare for future price increases. Buying in bulk now ensures your pantry is filled with a versatile, nutrient-dense food source for months or even years to come. 10. The breakfast cereal crunch. For decades, breakfast cereal has been a symbol of convenience and a morning ritual for millions. It's marketed as a quick, easy, and often healthy start to the day, with entire aisles dedicated to a dizzying array of colorful boxes designed to appeal to both children and adults. However, this breakfast staple is becoming a surprisingly costly part of the weekly grocery bill. The price increases go far beyond the simple cost of the grain inside the box, reflecting a complex chain of production, processing, and marketing, all of which are under inflationary pressure. It starts with the raw ingredients. The primary grains used in most cereals, corn, wheat, and oats, have all seen significant price surges on the global market. Factors such as volatile weather impacting harvests, increased demand for animal feed, and geopolitical issues have created a tighter supply, pushing the baseline cost of these essential commodities higher for everyone, including cereal manufacturers. But the grain is just the beginning. Breakfast cereal is a highly processed product. The journey from raw grain to the crunchy flakes, puffs, or loops in your bowl involves numerous energy-intensive steps. Mills grind the grains, factories cook and shape them, and extensive machinery adds coatings, vitamins, and flavors. All of this requires a tremendous amount of electricity and natural gas. As energy prices have climbed, the cost of running these production facilities has skyrocketed, and manufacturers are passing that expense along. Furthermore, packaging is a huge component of the final price. The brightly printed cardboard boxes and the plastic bags inside are both derived from raw materials that have become more expensive. From paper pulp to petroleum, the cost of creating this signature packaging has risen, adding yet another layer to the final retail price. Finally, the extensive marketing and distribution network for breakfast cereals adds to the cost. These are nationally, and often globally, branded products that require massive advertising budgets and a complex logistics chain to get them onto store shelves. Rising fuel costs make transporting these lightweight but bulky boxes more expensive. For families, especially those with children, the increasing cost of cereal presents a real budgetary challenge. A food item that was once a dependable and affordable breakfast option is now becoming a notable expense. Stocking up on a few family-favorite boxes when they are on sale can provide a buffer against this steady price creep, helping to keep morning routines simple and affordable. 11. All-purpose flour, the baker's rising burden. Wheat flour is one of the most fundamental ingredients in the world, a pantry workhorse that serves as the foundation for an incredible variety of foods. From the daily loaf of bread and comforting pasta dishes to celebratory cakes and pastries, flour is woven into the fabric of our culinary lives. Because of its central role, when the price of flour rises, its impact is felt far and wide across the entire food system. In recent times, this essential staple has been hit hard by inflation, making it a critical item to stock up on. The primary driver of flour's rising cost is the volatility in the global wheat market. Geopolitical conflicts in major wheat exporting regions have disrupted supply chains and created widespread uncertainty, while unpredictable weather patterns, such as severe droughts and floods, have led to smaller harvests in other key agricultural zones. Combined with the ever-increasing cost of fertilizers needed for productive farming, the price of the raw wheat grain has climbed significantly. Once the wheat is harvested, it begins a journey to become the fine powder we recognize as flour, and every step of this process has become more expensive. The milling process, which grinds the wheat kernels into flour, is an energy-intensive operation. With electricity and fuel costs on the rise, millers face higher operational expenses, which are then factored into the price of their product. After milling, the flour must be packaged and distributed. The cost of paper for bags and the fuel required to transport the finished product to warehouses, bakeries, and supermarkets have all increased, adding further pressure to the final shelf price. This creates a powerful ripple effect. It is not just the price of a bag of flour that goes up. The cost of nearly every baked good follows suit, from sandwich bread and bagels to pizza dough and cookies. What makes inflation in this category so concerning is flour's role as a cornerstone of food security for billions. It is not a specialty ingredient, but a basic building block of affordable nutrition. When the price of flour surges, it directly impacts the affordability of everyday meals for households around the globe. For home bakers, the rising cost can make a beloved hobby or a budget-friendly practice more expensive. For families, it means paying more for essential food items. Given its long shelf life when stored properly in a cool, dry place, stocking up on all-purpose flour is a highly practical and strategic move. Securing a few extra bags locks in the current price, empowering you to continue baking and cooking affordably, regardless of future price hikes. 12. Bottled water, the hidden costs of convenience. At first consideration, bottled water might seem like it should be insulated from the worst of food and beverage inflation. After all, water itself is a naturally abundant resource. However, when you buy a bottle of water, you are paying very little for the water itself and a great deal for the packaging, transportation, and convenience. It is these associated costs that have made this simple commodity surprisingly susceptible to price increases. One of the most significant factors is the cost of plastic. The vast majority of water bottles are made from polyethylene terephthalate PET, a plastic derived from petroleum. As global oil prices fluctuate and trend upward, the cost of producing PET plastic rises in tandem. This means the price of the bottle itself, the single largest material cost in the product, has become more expensive for manufacturers to procure. Beyond the bottle, the logistics of getting water from its source to a store shelf is a surprisingly carbon-intensive and costly endeavor. Water is heavy, and shipping it requires a significant amount of fuel. Whether it's being transported by truck from a spring a few hundred miles away or by ship from a different continent, rising diesel and freight costs directly translate into a higher price for the consumer. Supply chain disruptions, driver shortages, and port congestion can further complicate this process, adding delays and expenses that are ultimately reflected on the price tag. The convenience of grabbing a clean, safe, and portable drink comes with a complex and increasingly expensive logistical tale. While rising bottled water prices may not pose a direct nutritional crisis, the trend is concerning for what it signifies. Bottled water has become a symbol of preparedness and, for many, a perceived safer alternative to tap water. When the cost of such a basic item climbs, it serves as a powerful psychological indicator that no product is truly shielded from the effects of inflation. For households that rely on bottled water for daily drinking or for their emergency preparedness kits, these rising costs can add up quickly. It may force consumers to reconsider their habits, perhaps by investing in home water filters or reusable bottles. Stocking up on a few cases of bottled water can serve as a useful hedge against these rising prices, ensuring you have a supply on hand for emergencies or convenience without being subject to future increases.